you. So look, now we're going to panel number 7, and I'll hand over to the moderator, who is someone that's quite familiar to us, Anton Lutz. Anton, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Like Father Phil said, I'm Anton Lutz. I'll be moderating our panel this afternoon. It's a very small panel as opposed to others we've had. I think only 2 people on our panel. One of them is Bishop Jack Arame, the head bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of PNG. In his former life, however, he was a senior researcher and director at the Melanesian Institute for Pastoral and Socio-Economic Services in Goroka, where he, along with Father Phil Gibbs, began to document in 2003, which to me seems like a very long time ago. More than 10 years ago, one of our academic journals summed up their conclusions by saying, we need a more united effort to put an end to sorcery and witchcraft beliefs and practices, as well as the violence related to them. How much has changed since then, I wonder. So thanks for being here, guys. As many of us might know, you're both academics, but you're also both ordained clergy who have served in parish ministry. And so I hope we can bring wear both hats today and bring all of that here. Our starting point is this: churches in Papua New Guinea play a significant role in sorcery accusation related violence. At their best, they're points of light in the darkness where hope and healing can be found. Yet we also hear stories of others who proclaim messages which lead to suspicion, fear, even violence. And as we've already noted, our lack of unity is a problem when it comes to speaking one message. So Bishop Jack, if you are with us, can you take this first question here? What are churches doing, or maybe what could they be doing to prevent and heal the harm from SARV? And what might they actually be doing that makes the situation worse? Are you with us?
Thank you, Anton. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Gibbs. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to share and to be on this panel. This is a very important topic, very sensitive. And as you said, I was very much engaged already during my time at the Melanesian Institute. And Professor Gibbs was also very much involved in this, and up to now, I'm still following up on the issue, and because I'm very interested, because it touches the lives of the people, it touches our community and our society and our country as a whole. That churches became aware of this issue a long time ago, and because of its role to preach the gospel and also to create peace and harmony, and to make the lives of people, more enjoyable, that churches identified that issue of sorcery-related violence, and therefore, as the Melanesian Institute at that time already, which also you made reference to, in 2003, I joined them in 2006 when I was, attached to the faculty at that time. And so the Melanesian Institute did a research in all of the regions. Imagine across the country, it was a very big research. And so capturing, all the belief systems of the different regions in the country and trying to understand what is really this belief and what are the practices and how it is affecting the lives of the people and in the communities. And so during those research, we were really, somehow touched by, a lot of people who were suffering as a result of this belief, because this belief is not, really creating a kind of harmony in the communities and within the families, but also creating a lot of disruption. People were forced out of the communities, and a lot of them were killed in, horrific circumstances, being burned and being buried and being, thrown into rivers and pit toilets, and it was unimaginable, and so that churches became so concerned. Out of that research, a lot of publications, came about, but also the Institute was engaged, and I myself also was very much engaged in going out into communities and visiting people, trying to do a lot of awareness and giving out information, because research was not only for academic exercise, it must benefit the people. And that was one of the challenging areas. And so in many of my visits, people really express that this belief is really disrupting the lives of people in the communities, and we need to do something, but not as church alone, but together. There must be a collective approach, as you said, and therefore the Institute was very engaged. So there is enough research done, and there is enough information about the belief and about the practices and what is really going on out in the communities. And so there is no question about it. The issue now is why do people continue to suffer? Why are families affected? Why are people displaced? Why are people being accused and killed in many different ways? This is the most, I think, critical question that we are trying to understand, we are trying to respond to. And so I changed my place of work already, I'm based here now in Ley and leading one of the biggest churches also in the country. But I never gave up on this issue, I'm also very much engaged in trying to, give relevant information that can, change the lives of our people in. Between 2003 and 2007, as you said, what really happened? Because I think there was no collaborative effort between the different players or stakeholders, and so there was no strategy in place. As a result of that, the government became aware and then, tried to come up with this national action plan, which I think we were also part of the journey. And the churches were very much also involved. And there is a national action plan, and I think most of you are aware of that one. But unfortunately, we were not able to listen to Josephine, so we lost that part of the information. Up to now, what how is it, and are they really making sure that the things that were outlined in the action plan are really implemented? And so that is something that we need to follow up so that there is implementation and there is positive outcome. I think for the churches, the Papua New Guinea Council of Churches became aware of that one. And so they decided to also develop a plan, the churches, action plan. And so they are putting pieces together to try to respond to the issue. But I think there is a lack of implementation for one reason or another, because, COVID-19 is another issue that is really challenging us to really get into, the things that we need to do together. But at the moment, I think there is a plan. And the team visited Enga province, and I was not with the team at that time because I had a very different engagement to launch and then also create a kind of awareness. But I think so much is yet to be done in this area. So collectively, through the Papua New Guinea Council of Churches, the churches are pulled together and are trying to take this collective approach to try to make an impact in the communities. But there is still room to do more. There is still space to do more, and I think we will continue to share with our General Secretary, who is also a very leading figure and is also very keen on this issue in trying to make sure that things are done and information gets to the people and that churches are really engaged on this issue. The individual churches, the churches are doing different things at different, levels. Some at the community level, some at institutional level, and some at, a structural level where different conferences and meetings are held and information is said, and etc. And people are, becoming more aware because the churches are with the people and they see the suffering of people. And they know that they have a very important responsibility to give hope to the people and to create peace and harmony where people can love each other and support each other and live together. So that is very important. Up to now, what it's really happening up to now is, I think, an important question after that research, and also after the National Action Plan, and also after the PNG Council of Churches put the plan together. I can admit that I think maybe not much has been done, and therefore there must be a new awakening. We need to, I think, get up to try to, pull the strings together so that we continue to push, so that the information gets down to the people, because the issues are happening at the grassroots level, where people are living. And most of the things are said only on the structural level, but we need to get down to the people. So it is touching the lives of the community and giving them the relevant information and empowering them to, understand things and to make decisions, and also, take ownership of the issue. That is very, very important and critical. For myself, I continue to encourage our pastors, and I have been also visiting other people in other churches as well, not only the church where I belong to, but other churches, because we are concerned equally together. And so we encourage our pastors to visit the people who are affected, and to provide counseling, and also to be engaged in mediation, and to make sure that there is peace and harmony in the communities, but also to integrate some of those messages in their sermons, which many of them are doing, to take the opportunity on Sundays to give relevant message, because these are opportunities where pastors are using. And I myself, every time I stand up at the pulpit, I try to bring all these social issues, including sorcery, to give the relevant information to the people. But this is part of, educating the people and giving the information to the people, so that they are aware and they're empowered and they understand what to do. But also, they also conduct little family studies, or Bible studies, as we call it, in families and in small groups, like in the communities. So this is happening almost, regularly. And for the Lutheran Church, from my point of view, we try to focus on the families, to try to create awareness in the families, so that there is harmony in the family. Children are growing up with positive orientation to life, and to try to avoid negative experiences and bad stories and bad experiences. So family is the most important unit that we need to try to build up, because it's from family that we become society. For that reason, we are focusing on trying to give this relevant information to the families through Bible studies and prayer and and meditations together. Already in many of my visits and many of my engagement in many of the church activities, we bring this, for example, to the level of the church council. This is the IS meeting where many people come, and they are informed about what is happening, about what they can do with their congregations or with their parishes and circuits in the districts, but also at the at the synod level. That's a very high level meeting of the church, where a lot of people from everywhere they come. So we give them this message. We take their in our discussion and collectively find ways how we can respond to this. So we are addressing this issue at different levels of the church structure, and I believe many other churches are also doing the same. And I am also very much connected to many other churches who are also doing fantastic work and trying to address this issue, which for me is a very positive. I am very, very much thankful for everything they are doing. I think in all these approaches and efforts, I think there is, not only the positive and the achievements, but also there are a lot of challenges that we need to work together in the churches. Also, to be effective, we feel that we also need a collaborative effort and the support and cooperation with different players, different stakeholders, in order to be effective. Because the church is in society, the church is not alone as an island isolated from other people or other areas of life. the churches in the society. That is why I think we need to share together. And so what we are doing is very, very helpful. This at the end of next month, not this month, but at the end of next month already, I received an invitation to go out to speak to a group of women who are meeting in Simbu. Church women who are meeting for 1 week, and they said, please come and talk to us on sorcery, because a lot of people are dying, a lot of families are suffering, and this issue is increasing, and so please take 1 full day during this meeting and talk to us. So I said, yes, I'm willing to come and I will go. So these are some ongoing things that we are doing to go and then to be with the people and to give them the right information, to educate them to understand things in the right way. So this is an ongoing work, and so we will never give up as church. We believe in the gospel of peace and reconciliation, harmony. We will continue to do that. But the churches also, they face a lot of challenges. What are the major challenges that we are facing as church together? As we heard also from other speakers, there is a lack of community support. That is one of the biggest challenges, because the communities see the sorcerers or the witches, those who are believed to be sorcerers or witches, as being the culprit, and they sometimes the community is behind the removal of the sorcerers and witches, and that is again something that we need to work on. The community is not supporting because they see things in a different way. They believe in a different way. So when there is no communal support, our approach will also be not really solid enough and be successful enough. The second, I think, challenge we are facing is with the young people. There is an emerging group of young people called the drug bodies, and so they are always taking the lead in the communities. And so even pastors and church workers cannot be effective because these people are becoming very violent, and and they try to take control of the situation. And so that is one also big challenge where our work is sometimes not really effective. The third challenge we are facing is the lack of resources and lack of also knowledge to assist or to help the people who are affected. A lot of church workers, they lack resources, they lack the knowledge how to respond to those issues. The fourth challenge we are facing, in my view, is young people, mostly who are forced out of school, or sometimes they have nothing to do, and so they don't cooperate, they don't work with the community, and so they try to create their own culture. And so we are dealing with those emerging young people where there is no respect, they don't listen to the authority. So that is really putting a huge challenge on the work of the pastors and the church workers in the communities. The next challenge we are facing, I believe, is the many church workers and many Christians, even many pastors and priests, they still continue to believe in this, in sorcery and in witchcraft. So how can they be in a better position to help others if they still continue to believe? We need to be different, to try to take a different stand and see things from a different perspective in order to help others. So when we continue to believe, we are also frightened, and we cannot be in a position to help. So that is another challenge. I think the next challenge is the culture of exorcism, praying and trying to take the evil spirits away from those who are believed to be possessed by evil spirits. That again is strengthening the belief, and people really think that yes, there are evil spirits in people, and therefore people are really sorcerers or witches, and so exorcism for me I think is a way of strengthening the belief. Is not very helpful, and so that for me is already a problem. The next challenge is the prayer warrior. They try to take the like the nature of Jesus, and then try to pray and try to make people believe that there are evil spirits not in the open space but inside of people, and so prayer warriors are now becoming really influential these days. So they convince the people to believe also in what they do. But this is again also, as I said already, strengthening the belief, and so it's not doing any good, but it's all also creating a negative kind of impression in people. The next challenge we are facing as church is misinterpretation or misapplication of the Bible or of the gospel anyway. Often they refer to Jesus casting out evil spirits and out of people into pigs and so on, and they try to strengthen their argument and in saying that yes, Jesus drove out evil spirits, and therefore we also are told in the Bible that we need to believe that people do also possess evil spirits. But this kind of misapplication or misinterpretation continue to also strengthen the belief, and people will never develop a positive mindset to understand things in a better way. Also, maybe one other challenge that I want to also mention is the spreading rumors. A lot of stories happen because of rumors, and people, they try to tell stories and then convince others to believe that these stories are true. But also I see the culture of indoctrination where our young people are taught in the wrong way. They are shown pictures of Harry Potter and they believe that, oh, there is like witches flying and so on, and so they see things in the movie and they see things maybe on different media sources, and they believe that yes, these are realities that they need to believe and embrace. And so this is already creating a generation of people with a negative mindset already. So that is something which we need to work together to try to overcome. I think the biggest challenge is the lack of coordination and cooperation between the churches themselves. There is a strategy, as I said already, a plan in place, but we need to somehow find a strategy to work together so that we give one message, we take one approach. The churches are doing something, but these things are not pulled together. So that is the biggest challenge. On the other hand, I think, in my view and from my observation, and my own involvement in the issue is, the society, is already, experiencing a lot of problem, and there is increase of, sorcery-related violence. There is an increase because there is so much social stress. And this is not only related to the belief, but also related to other factors as well. And we need to see them together in a holistic way. And in order to take a holistic approach, we can see already, across the country, there is lack of relevant, information from the medical personnel, because sometimes people don't get the right kind of information. And so even though they receive medical reports, they have their own sideline stories. They go back home and they tell their own stories, and then they start accusing people and and killing people. There is an increase in lifestyle diseases, and so many people are dying very young, and people are asking, oh, he was here yesterday, why gone now? He was not sick, and so it's all these, all sudden, dramatic experiences leads to, negative attitude and violence and so on. So a lot of people are dying very young, and so people are, really frustrated because they cannot, find answers. There is also an increase in generational gap between the older generation and the younger generation. So the older people with the values are gone, and the younger generations, they are completely lost. Even across the country, you see lack of development, which leads to much suffering of the people. and social discrepancies in society, economic inequality, and causing a lot of families and individuals to suffer. And also joblessness is increasing in the country, and a lot of young people are becoming so frustrated. Also lack of improved, medical facilities and services in the country. A lot of people are dying. Curable diseases, could have been, prevented, could have been healed. People are dying from curable diseases. And so, and many of these deaths are, connected to sorcery. People, just, draw their own conclusions and try to find a shortcut or short way of trying to explain, the causes of sickness and death. And all these put together, you can see that there is social stress in the society. So that leads to the increase in violence and related to the belief. The most critical, I think, for me, the question to ask now is, what is the way forward, for the churches and for us together, together as society. We need to try to work towards shifting the mindset of our people. This is like going back one step back. We are doing, tremendous work, wonderful work. But I think my opinion is, if we want to solve this problem, once and for all, we need to go back one step. And how can we work together to influence the mindset and to shift the mindset, the way of thinking, which will contribute to a change in behavior. That for me is, I think, is the most important step. Because the churches, I think, were mandated to deal with the belief, because we are trying to deal with the belief system, and the violence is the result of the belief system. So that is the reason why, I am really, keen in trying to take that, approach for the churches to try to come together to try to work around changing the mindset of the people. How can we change? We had stories about Africa, and we had stories about India already yesterday. And so even though from history we know stories of Europe, they had the same kind of problem, but Europe changed, in the Middle Ages, they changed. What changed them? We need to learn from them. What really changed them? What shifted their mindset? What shifted the old way of, believing in those beliefs, in sorcery and witchcraft? These are lessons that we should try to, understand and try to apply it in our context. For me, education is very important. Community engagement is very important. Elder awareness is very important. And so this will, changing the mindset of our people, because we are dealing with with a system that, that is really deeply rooted, and to unwind it and to try to find a way out will not be easy, but together, and collectively, we can achieve. This is achievable, I believe. This is as far as what I can say for now. I will probably give space for the Phil to maybe continue from there. Thank you, Anton.
Thank you very much. I hope you are all taking notes. That was a comprehensive presentation. Father Phil, can we ask you to maybe go back and reflect on anything you've heard there, of course, but maybe from the research days when you started researching this, and as you've come through the many years working in ENGA and filmmaking, and like, what have been successes and failures that you've seen? What are unexpectedly good outcomes that surprised you? And what maybe were unrealistic hopes that you once held? And what are lessons that you have learned on this journey as sort of being our one of our leaders?
Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Bishop Jack. You've gone on to greater things. We used to be colleagues together at the Melanesian Institute. Yeah, I'm now at the university, and I talk to students about this sometimes, and they tell me, well, when we're at the university, it's nice and safe here, and we've got 3 meals a day, and we don't really worry about this too much. But when we go back to the village, we get into a different situation. We get back into the village environment, and then it sort of becomes all real again. It's very contextual, even with the young people. And that's something that I've learned. I started off more academic, I guess, at the Melanesian Institute, and then then it was important just meeting people. And I suppose I've met many people who are involved in some way or other in witchcraft and sorcery, but particularly the victims, those who have been accused and who have been suffered either verbal or even physical violence as a result of those accusations. Some people ask me, do you believe that sorcery or witchcraft can exist? And quite honestly, I believe it can, but I can honestly say I haven't met a single person who I feel is guilty of it yet. The people who I've met are innocent victims who have been accused and have been tortured. When you are an active person in the church, you are a person who believes in the supernatural. You are a person who believes in what is said in the Bible, where it talks about the evil spirits and so on. But then how does it come into our lives today? And I think you have to look at it through different worldviews. And that's one of the things that I've learned about over the last few years, is that you can have different ways of looking at the world. You can look at it definitely from a medical, scientific viewpoint, and you can see that someone, for instance, died of cancer, or they died of leukemia, or something like that. But then there comes the question, well, why? Because this person died of cancer and that person didn't die of cancer. So why did that person die and the other person didn't die? Why did that person get cancer? Now that's the way you get into religious types of questions rather than scientific questions. Maybe it's because someone was drinking sugary drinks for the whole of their life and they got diabetes, and then COVID-19 got them and they died. That's a good scientific explanation for it. But still, the religious question is there. Why did that happen to this person? And I think that's the question that many people are asking these days. And that's what comes behind a lot of these issues to do with sorcery, accusation-related violence. Try to explain the why questions. And I think the church has an important role there in trying to help people to deal with these different ways of looking at such questions, ways of looking at what's true and what's not. There's so much so-called truth going around these days. You've only got to look at what's going around with vaccination and the coronavirus at the moment, with all the conspiracy theories going around. There's not only in Papua New Guinea, there's as much conspiracy theories going around in the United States as there are in Papua New Guinea, as far as I can tell from looking at the media. It's not just a Papua New Guinea problem, but you've got all these theories and these weird and wonderful ideas coming up, and sorcery picks up some of them, so that you've got Sanguma helicopters and Sanguma guns and all sorts of different things that they label as sorcery, Sanguma, witchcraft, whatever. And I think people, especially many young people, are being, they find it difficult to find their way through what is really something that we should believe and what we shouldn't. And that's where I think linking yourself up to a church, which is offering people baptism, and they said, you get baptized and you're going to be part of this community. And if you're going to get baptized, we promise you that you will be free from the dominions of darkness and these sorts of things. If someone accepts that, and maybe they were baptized as a child, but later on as an adult, they get confirmed and they take that into their lives. I think that gives them an anchor. I think it can give them some sort of stability to be able to look at all these different theories and ideas that are waving around, coming at them through the media and through different ways today. And that's where I see in a way, the value of the church in terms of belief. But then I see it's also very practical, because you take the Highlands, someone's accused and tortured, where do they take them? Anton's going to take them to Yampu Hospital, run by the sisters, because he knows the sisters there are not going to send them away, and they're going to find a place for them somewhere. They'll sort of keep them safe. Maybe it'll be Mambazanda, the Lutheran hospital. Maybe it'll be the first place I went to was Pujit, there in Chiwaka, where the first person who was a victim of this, who I got to know, her name was Kathy. She was from Inga. She managed to escape from Inga, and she got to Pujit, and she was 1 month unconscious in Pujit. There, she eventually was released after about 4 months there, Pujit Hospital, run by the Nazarene Church. And it was that care that's behind the church hospitals that enable people to find some sort of healing, both physical and mental and spiritual, because that trauma is something that is going to be with people for the rest of their lives. If they've stripped you and hung you up and tortured you for 2 days with hot irons, trauma is never going to leave you. And so I believe that that's another very important aspect of the church's ministry. You can see it, for instance, with Sister Lorena in Mendi. She's pretty good at that. And she does a lot of that sort of work, dealing with trauma and trying to assist people with counseling. I think another issue is in providing some sort of safety for people. And that's where churches can help too. And I think when someone like yourself, as a bishop, or for instance, I know the Bishop of Wabe, Bishop Arnold, speaks out strongly and takes a stand, it gives people the reason to offer sanctuary, to offer safety to someone that's accused. And I've seen that happening. And now Bishop Arnold is wanting to start a safe house there at Dubumaris, there near Pina, in Wabe. And other people have been going to church-based safe houses in other parts of Papua New Guinea. Very often, they're church-based. That they have the interest and the conviction to be able to offer that sort of safety to people. But the other thing, you mentioned, Bishop, is the way that the churches somehow have to work together. And I remember we were working together on this document. I've got it here. There's a National Church's Strategy to Address Sorcery, Accusation, and Related Violence. They've come up with a strategy, and there was a lot of meetings going on. We met in Leh, I remember, to try to, with the different leaders, to try to find a common approach, because there's so many differences, particularly one big difference, I think, in the churches is the ones who are taking more of a social, psychological, what I would call spiritual approach, and those who take more of a spiritual warfare approach. And there's a big difference, I think, between finding someone who's being accused of sorcery and you say, I will try to offer you protection and to argue with people that this person is probably innocent, even though they might have done something wrong. There's a big difference between that and saying to someone, come and I will cast out the evil spirit and I will free you from the evil spirit. That's identifying that person as someone who's possessed. And you can see that difference in the church's approaches at the moment. And I think that has not been reconciled in Papua New Guinea. That's a real difference. And that when we were trying to meet to come up with that document, that was the issue that Pamela was the one leading us, that she was trying to deal with, to find a middle road where we could come together and work shoulder to shoulder on this. And in my experience at the moment, we're not working shoulder to shoulder. There's a National Council of Churches, which you're part of, which the church I belong to is part of. But here, in the introduction here, they identify 4 different groups. The mainline churches, which is basically the Papua New Guinea Council of Churches, the Pentecostal churches, the Evangelical Alliance, and the Body of Christ. They're the 4 different groups that the General Secretary talks about in the foreword. And I think we've got a lot of work to do somehow to be able to come together and work together more constructively in dealing with this particular issue. So there's some of the things that I've found in my experience. Yeah, we're dealing with belief, we're dealing with worldviews, and we're dealing with people fundamentally. And it's how we can be of assistance to these people and to the communities that they belong to, which have been sort of poisoned by these narratives that go around. And as people are trying to explain why this misfortune happened, why did someone die in an accident, why did this person get sick and die, trying to answer that question, and some people coming up with an answer that is very, very unhealthy for some people, because it leads to accusation and violence. And we've got to try to find a way based with the help of Scripture, with the help of faith, help of theology, with the help of the Christian community to be able to deal with these things so that we can have a more of an image of the kingdom of God here in Papua New Guinea, which certainly I don't see that image when I see people sprung up and being tortured with irons and so on. So that's all I want to say. Maybe some people would like to ask some questions, and I'd like to give you some space for that. We've got another 10 minutes before we finish.
Fantastic. Yeah, amazing insights from both of you. Thank you very much. We do have a question here, if I can find it. It says, if it's not possible to find one unified approach among churches, is it better to at least have a unified statement for one or two, or the church groups identified? Perhaps we could also note that this church strategy document, before I turn this over to you guys, I'm not answering the question, but all 4 of those groups that you mentioned from the PNG Council of Churches, Evangelical Alliance, Chairman of the Body of Christ, and I think a Pentecostal group, they've all signed this document. And it has a very simple sort of platform that says we are to speak strongly against accusations of sorcery, we are to teach and preach God's law, love, healing, character, and way, and we're to offer the church as a place of neutrality. And those were put forward in this document, among other things, as sort of principles that we could all stand behind, whether or not we're approaching it from a sort of more social issue perspective or a spiritual warfare perspective. Anyway, any thoughts from you guys about how we can have unified statements from our churches, if you can hear me?
Yes, Anton?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. It's a very important question. Thank you for the question. I think there are a number of churches all coming together and trying to understand the issue and trying to respond to the issue together, as church groups. The difference Professor Gibbs also mentioned is, you can maybe ask again whether the issue of sorcery and witchcraft is a social problem, spiritual problem. I think you also briefly mentioned about that. The violence we see is a social problem, resulting from the belief, and so for the groups, the mainline churches under the PNG Council of Churches who came together, they understand this as a real social problem. We need to physically take actions, to address this issue. we don't just, sit down and pray about it. Miracles will not happen. People are dying, people are suffering, communities and families, are, disintegrated. That is the reason why I think there are enough, a number of churches already, coming together. And that is why I think the document was, put together. And so there is already a collective understanding. The only challenge we are facing is, how to try to, collectively get the right message to the grassroots, the communities, because at the structural and leadership level, we only talk, at a different level, but we cannot, get down to the communities. So how do we get this message down to the people? So we need to link up with, different players in between in order to reach the people down at the grassroots level where the problem is. Thank you.
Hello. I'd like to make a comment here. Jack and the moderator. When you are saying you have a, when you say you have a problem getting to the community, how do you get to the community? Serious. For me, that's kind of, I don't know where I can find to best suit what I'm about to say. These people are from the community. They practically go to church every Sunday. They don't go anywhere. They go to church, be it Catholic, be it Lutheran, be it SDA, Saturday, whatever church, they go there. And every time someone dies of sorcery, the church is totally silent. They never come out to the public. They don't say anything. They don't condemn these killings. They've been silent. This is my first time to hear there's already a document been signed. The church has more or less contributed to this, all these sorcery killings, because they've been silent all this time. The church has a big role. You go to the remotest areas in Papua New Guinea, where you'll find a church. They are not playing the role there. When you're talking about how to get to the community, hey, all months ago, to every Sunday, Mama Blobis go. Some people can walk miles to go to church. The church is not talking about sorcery. It's not condemning the killings. They are the biggest partners to the government's work. The government has more to do with it, but the church has more, because it's affecting the people every day. Women out there dying, and you'll see it in the media every time. And the church has not come out to condemn these killings. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent.
I'm passionate about this.
Thank you. Thank you for your passion. That was going to be one of my follow-on questions for Bishop Jack was, what would you tell Christians if you feel that their church leaders are not taking ownership on this? How do we from the top level, where the PNG Council of Churches is, and yourself as a leader of a church body, you're trying to make a difference coming down, but we're down at the bottom. And like my sister says, like, we're frustrated by seeing that pastors are not doing the right thing. How can we work together to bridge that gap and make a difference in the middle? Get the pastors to say the right thing.
Thank you, Anton. That is exactly what I was trying to explain. Through most of the discussions like we are doing now is happening at the top level, but how much of this gets down, every individual church, they have their own structures, like what I said in my presentation. I said there are existing structures within the churches where they try to get this information down, so that from the parishes, so it goes from the national level to the district level to the congregation level. So there are different players in between who can be involved. But also, I also pointed out the fact that many pastors lack information and knowledge, so they are not even in a better position to help. And that's another challenge. Everyone is different. We cannot all be the same everywhere and every level. For that reason, I think different church workers are taking, different positions. And that is the struggle we are facing, to try to give a uniform kind of message and take a collective approach so that it is effective both from the top level, but also down to the grassroots level, so that we can move together. I think I understand, where the question is coming from, where some pastors or priests or church workers at the congregation level are not really effective. That is true. We can also admit. We identify also this problem. That is why in many of our meetings, we try to pull the pastors together so that they can understand, they can get the message, and they can also implement and be effective, in addressing the people.
Say something. I think you've got, it's good what you say, Linda, right? Yeah, but in some places, some of the church leaders have gone out so much that people are now calling them sangumas. They're accusing them. And that includes Anton there, who's looking at us. They're calling Anton a sanguma now. Yeah, but Bishop Arnold there in Inga, they're calling him a sanguma now. They see him coming and they say, well, look, he's the defender of all those sangumas. Some of them have gone really right out. And they're starting to suffer because of that, their reputation and so on, not in their own churches, but in public. They're being called sangumas because of the way that they're trying to defend people and to oppose that, but people are identifying with that. I think it's not so much going down, it's a matter of coming up. It's a matter of starting at the bottom and coming up rather than starting at the top and going down, but that's my philosophy.
Yeah, thank you. I think, you see, what most of these perpetrators, they go to church. So if the priests or pastors take ownership of it by preaching it every day, those people who are perpetrators they belong to a church. They go to church. Even some of them who come and accuse, they are churchgoers. Churches, if anybody will listen to anybody, the people will. Church is the first and paramount that has a lot of influence on the lives of people. If it can start to talk to the people every Sunday, talk about sorcery, it will make a difference because it's a belief. Jack Lama Tokia, belief, Lord man, has a lot of influence. So if they start to address this topic, I'm sure it will make a difference because it's got belief. People online don't believe here. Even people call me a sorcerer, but do I believe it? My conscience is clear. So it doesn't have an impact on me because I know what I'm doing. But me, like in church, must come up strong because church, true, number one. Every person in Papua New Guinea, they call Papua New Guinea a Christian country. Church, you got big role of playing. Thank you, Professor Gibbs.
Thank you, Linda. Maybe we should have a complaint structure within the PNG Council of Churches. If you think your pastor is preaching the wrong thing, you can send a complaint up and someone can deal with it. Thank you guys for your time. Any last comments before we wrap up here for the day, or for this session, I should say, from anyone else?
Can I say, Anton?
Yes, Sister Lorena.
Can I just respond to Linda and to Professor Gibb, to Bishop Shaikan, to all of you? Just a couple of months ago, I went to a bush village, walked for 2 hours to rescue a woman. When I was almost there, I found out that there were 5 different little churches there. And before I approached the village, I got 3 very nice names. I was called the advocate of the devil is coming, the leader of the Sangoma is coming, and 666 is coming. So I just decided for a moment, what will I do? And I decided I will not react, I will respond. And I say to 3 pastors, please, my friends, come to me. I would like to shake hands with you, and I would like to build a bridge with you. Let's reach out and make a bridge with our hands and help me to save the woman. And the whole community was shocked and didn't know what to do. And I said, have you all forgotten that we are all together sitting in the same boat because we are all brothers and sisters, because we are all image and likeness of God? And I decided not to preach and not to do anything because I decided to respond. And that village now helps me to work, because for some reason it made an impact, because we are not preaching, we are not condemning, we are really church and bringing a good news and bring reconciliation and build bridges to forgiveness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Lorena.
Perfect way to end it. Thank you. All right, guys, our time is up. I'm sure we could talk about this topic all day long, but thank you very much to both of our panelists and for all the wisdom and years they've done this work. Hopefully they can both write many more books and we can learn more from them. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anton, and thank you for being moderator on that panel.